One of the things that you're going to want to think about when you are either buying your own loom or making a loom is, what do you want to use here? I personally prefer pegs. I know there are people who like nails, and I even have a friend, a twining friend on Facebook, who made her own loom, and she used screws. Okay. I personally like the pegs. They feel nice to me. They've got this little ridging on them. You don't have to get it up over the head. That's just me. I know some people use finishing nails. You're also going to want to think about the space that you have them. I don't know if I want to say traditionally they're an inch apart. Everything that I had seen, they were an inch apart. But now I'm beginning to see people with looms that are where the nails are half an inch apart. And I think that's a different kind of, it's not a different kind of twining. I mean, if you want to do that, you can, and then you have the flexibility of having them an inch apart if you want to. So that's kind of cool. I think with half an inch, you have to really be careful about how wide your warp is. Anytime I've ever seen anybody do any twining with half an inch, they use usually string. But you know what? You do you. That's really, you're going to hear me say that a lot. You do you. But that is something to consider, how far apart you want to space them. The other thing you really want to make sure that you do is when you are making a loom in particular, if you're buying a loom, the person who makes a loom has already thought of it. But if you're making a loom, make sure that you get the eyelet for the selvage rod as close as possible, no more than half an inch away from the first peg or nail. If you have it way out here, because you're thinking, okay, you know what, my pegs are an inch apart, I'll just put my selvage rod an inch away too. No, don't do that. What you'll get is this big loopy loop and for your selvage, and you don't want that at all. So you really want to have it as close as possible. And you can see this one is like right butted up next to it. And when I warp it, I just kind of do what I just did. I put the warp on, and then I make sure that this is around. Anyway, it's really close, and so it makes a really nice tight edge, and it's not loopy at all. Let's see. Oh, you want to make sure that, particularly if you're making a loom, that you come up with some way to keep it square. So Joe's looms are 100%. They're adjustable. So here, let me turn this around. So you can see that Joe uses wing nuts. And I can totally take this apart and have all the components in a box if I needed to, if I wanted to. I probably won't, because that's just not me. But it's not as stable that way. So Joe solves that problem by having a crossbar. That works totally fine. I mean, that's a good way to do it. Oh, I wanted to talk a little something about the pegs real quick, and that is you want to make sure that they are angled up if you can, if you're making your own, to do that with the nails. I just think that makes it nice when you're warping. You don't ever have to worry about them coming off. This loom keeps itself square by having the screws on a diagonal. So that's how it stays square. For a while, my husband and I were selling looms on Etsy. It was all right. It just wasn't our thing. And he actually encourages people to actually put some glue down. So unfortunately, that makes it so you can't take it apart. But it just slides behind, the armoire. Another thing to think about when you're making your own loom or you're buying a loom is to make sure that you have eyelets at the very minimum, at the top, the bottom, and the middle. Because if you don't, you can start getting some play in this selvage rod, and then you can start getting kind of the, what do people call it, the waist. They say my rug has a waist, so you don't want that. This one actually came this way. It has one at the top, one at the bottom, one in the middle, and eyelets in between the middle and the top and bottom one. So it's really going nowhere. Pencil rod, and I think it's 1/4 inch. I'm not sure. You can buy it at Home Depot. I actually was sourcing this from a steel manufacturer here in town, and they'd cut it to whatever length I wanted it. And those are some things to think about when you are either making a loom or buying a loom. You're going to want to think about how far apart do I want the pegs or nails? Do I want pegs or nails? Make sure you put the selvage rod close to the very first peg or nail. See, this one isn't as close, but I've made several rugs on this loom. And I use kind of a thicker warp and a thicker weft than some people might, and I've had no problems with it not, being all loopy and stuff like that. So just kind of think about that. You're going to want to think about some way to maybe make it adjustable. So Joe's looms are adjustable. I mean, he's got one loom that makes like 60 sizes. And I said to my husband, I want to be able to make a mug rug. So he put an eyelet here, and he made me an extra arm, bless his heart. And he drilled a hole so the extra arm can go here, so I can make a mug rug, and I can also make a placemat. And so those are some things that you might want to think about, some ways that you can make it adjustable, or have somebody make one for you that you can adjust.